Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. Thank you so much for joining us. With us until the end of the next segment is James Rickards, best-selling author of Currency Wars. And I'll give you his website as well. It's jamesrickardsproject.com. It's an excellent website. A lot of videos and information there. We've only got about 5 minutes in this segment. Got a 12-minute segment coming up, and then we'll let you go because I know you're a busy man and appreciate the time. Finishing up with, what does your gut tell you? Because, you know, rich elites can always run to the next safe country. But to me, the United States does not look like a very good place to be during a full-on collapse. 20% chance of full-on collapse, 50%. I mean, the depression just keeps getting worse and worse. I agree by all metrics. We've been in a depression since 2008 or earlier. Most real economists agree with that. But, I mean, how bad will it get?
Well, the next financial crisis will be the worst in history, Alex, and that's not just an opinion or a wild guess. It's actually based on the science of complexity, which I talk about in both my books, The Death of Money and Currency Wars. Complexity theory basically looks at the scale of a system. That's a fancy word for size, but here's the point. When you triple the scale of a system, you don't triple the risk. You increase the risk by an exponential factor, 10 or 100 times. So in 2008, what did we hear about ad nauseum? Too big to fail, too big to fail, too big to fail. Well, guess what? The 5 biggest banks in the United States in 2008 today are bigger. They have a larger percentage of all the banking assets. Their derivatives books are bigger. So everything that was too big in 2008 is bigger today, which means the next collapse will be exponentially bigger. And it was all the Fed could do to put out the fire last time. The next one's going to be bigger than the Fed. It's going to be over to the IMF. And there's no, by the way, I talked earlier about these special drawing rights. That's the world money, the IMF issues. Well, there's no way they're issuing that without Russian, Chinese, and other people's approval because they're all members of the IMF. The G20 is sort of the de facto board of directors of the IMF. And they're not going to say, hey, let's just issue a bunch of SDRs so we can prop up the dollar. They're going to say, let's issue SDR so we can bury the dollar once and for all. Now, the impact of this is just inflationary at best and possibly hyperinflationary. It doesn't mean the dollar is going to go away. You'll still have dollars, but they'll be like Mexican pesos. In other words, the dollar will be a local currency that you use to go down to, you know, restaurant or hairdresser or whatever, but it won't be used for the big things. When I say the big things, the price of oil, settlement of balance of payments between countries, probably the financial statements of the 100 or so largest global corporations. So, you know, a few years from now, when you get your financial statement from IBM or General Electric, it'll all be stated in SDRs because they're really global corporations. So this SDR is the coming thing. Now, it might not work. It will definitely be tried. As I say, the blueprint's already there. It's on the IMF website. Secretary Geithner talked about it. He said he was open to it. Madame Lagarde, Christine Lagarde, head of the IMF, talks about it all the time. So the plan is already there. It will definitely be tried. Whether it works or not is a different question. If people lose confidence in the dollar, why would they have any more confidence in another form of paper money called the SDR? Well, if it works, it will only be because no one understands it, which is why education is so important. That's why I've read my books and do interviews like this one, just try to explain it to people in very straightforward terms. If it fails, however, which it might, then you're probably going to have to bring gold back into the picture, not because you want to, but because you have to, just to restore some confidence. But there's another side to this, which is as what I call the money riots break out, as confidence is lost, as society begins to disintegrate, you'll see a neo-fascist response. Executive orders, militarized local police, National Guard. We already have the wiretapping. We already have the surveillance. The cameras are there. By the way, every toll booth in America, we think they're there to collect tolls. They're actually surveillance and interdiction points. And the new thing, of course, is the driverless car. Well, imagine going around a driverless car and the government wants to turn it off and come and get you. I mean, these are all things that are coming.
Incredible. James Rickards is our guest. Meanwhile, the LAPD announced what they'd already been doing covertly. Even felony illegals are going to be released now, carte blanche, above the law. So you have to be illegal to be above the law now. And the Texas Civil Rights Commission, that's basically a communist front group, is openly in Austin criticizing the sheriff for even arresting felony illegals. Then I return Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. as well. Not just the hardest working guy on radio and TV, my crew is, and I salute them, you the listeners, our sponsors, and of course, Providence from the good Lord above. Final segment with James Rickards, best-selling author of Currency Wars, the new book, The Death of Money, which I'm going to be reading. I'm not selling the book, I should be, but I think you should get it. Just the graphs and quotes and documentation. This guy, no wonder Max Kaiser says this guy's about as good as it gets to real analysis. I hope he'll come back on the show every few months just to go over things and give us his perspective. Before we go back to him, when he leaves us, we're going to go to your phone calls. And then we're going to cover the CBS News story, LAPD to no longer comply with feds on immigration hold request of felons, of criminals, not just people that are there illegally. And you wonder how the illegals come here from all over the world to rape and kill and serial kill from Eastern Europe and Africa and Latin America. We always pick on Latin America because that's 80+%. I mean, is people fleeing justice? You just get on a plane or a bus, you're here, you're legal. I mean, this is crazy town by the elite. And L.A. is a total globalist takeover base, the third worldization. And look at this image if you're watching us on TV. LAPD no longer comply with feds on immigration hold request. And it just shows them all up there, and there's a video announcement that if you're illegal, you're above the law. They will not hold illegals to be picked up by ICE when they've committed crimes. They will just release them. And then I just can't believe it. That's political correctness. I guess if I robbed a bank, the cops pull up with guns out, and I go, hey, don't be racist. They probably say, Mr. Jones, let us escort you with the money right to your vehicle. I mean, literally. Wow. All right, shifting gears into the big subject and giving him the floor to break it down. Insider trading 9/11. Please tell us, sir, again, for folks that just tuned in, what you were doing at the time, your background. James Rickards, again, best-selling author of The Death of Money and of Currency Wars, joins us. He's been on with us for over an hour, getting into the current financial situation. But now, the big enchilada. We know it was in Der Spiegel and a few other publications, if you just joined us, that there was insider trading connected to the executive director of the CIA, Buzzy Krongard. That investigation got shut down. He was inside one of these major financial institutions while this was going on, and is one of the only witnesses to what happened. And I want to give you the floor, James. Now, you have a lot of courage to talk about this. Tell us exactly what you saw.
Well, a couple things, Alex. The first thing, I think the most important one, you have to distinguish between inside trading and what some commentators call inside job. And they get blurred together. Insider trading just means somebody knew about the attack in advance and they went into markets and either sold stocks or bought put options, which is the same thing as selling stocks, or they bought bonds, which are different, to make money when the attack happened. That is non-debatable. I cover this in chapter 1 of my book. It happened. There was insider trading. There's tons of evidence of it. When I say evidence, I mean statistical, forensic, anecdotal. It absolutely happened. Now, inside job is different. That somehow suggests that the government, U.S. government, had something to do with it. I've seen no evidence of that. And by the way, I went down there. Now, after 9/11, I mean, I'm talking in the immediate days, not 6 months or a year later when it was a memorial and a tourist attraction. I'm talking when flames were still coming out of the rubble. The military set up a secure perimeter around Lower Manhattan. There were various checkpoints at Canal Street and Church Street, if you know the area. You needed security clearance or some official business, or you had to be in the maintenance of one of those buildings, et cetera, to get inside that perimeter. I was inside that perimeter. I went to the roof of the American Express building, which after the two towers and World Trade Center 7 came down, the American Express building was the tallest building. This is in the World Financial Center, across the street from the World Trade Center. I went out on the roof. It was not an observation deck. It was a roof. I went out there and I looked straight down into the flaming ruins of the World Trade Center. And I was reminded of Rodin's sculpture, The Gates of Hell. I thought the gates of hell had been opened and I was looking into them. That's what I saw. So, you know, these armchair engineers who talk about controlled demolition and all this stuff, I mean, there's zero proof for that. That's a lot of nonsense. Some guy said to me, oh, there are 2,000 engineers who
No, I understand your proviso that you're not a 9/11 truther. but specifically insider trading, prior knowledge that something was coming on American and United?
Correct. Well, first of all, there is a ton of statistical evidence. By the way, the 9/11 Commission never said that there wasn't insider trading. What they said was that they found no evidence of insider trading, but if you don't look, you're not going to find the evidence. So that was sort of a lawyer's, wiggle room to get out of actually dealing with the issues. The 9/11 Commission report itself does not say that there wasn't insider trading. Now, about a year after 9/11, I was asked by the Central Intelligence Agency to join a project that looked into the possibility of a future attack. And what we said was, okay, if there was insider trading ahead of 9/11, could you have seen it? And if another spectacular attack was coming, would there be insider trading again? Could you detect it from market signals? Could you get a FISA warrant, break down the door, and stop the attack? And we spent years studying that, and I was a co-director of that project, and I met with the people at the SEC who did the investigation for the 9/11 Commission. I worked with the CIA on this. I worked with hundreds of volunteers, Nobel Prize winners, et cetera.